Hello everyone. Hello everyone. My name is Pavan and I'm working as a research assistant in Dr. Vishit's lab. Today I want to discuss a little about the difference between cloud and on-premises infrastructure, and then I want to go discuss few strategies in the cloud, as well as like what are the current updates in the market and what are the current insights in the market, and then with some real-time case scenarios. So before going into the topic, I just want to brush out the knowledge. So I want to discuss a little about the software development lifecycle. So whenever there is a requirement to develop any application, first the product owner or the top management will discuss, and then we'll come to a conclusion like on which infrastructure we have to use, and then what is the like cost benefit analysis, and then uh, after that they have to design it. Well, the UI UX designers will design the front end of the application, and then the development team will start writing the code, and then once the code writing is finished, and then it will go to the testing team where they will test the application for any bugs or any unit test cases, and then it goes to the deployment phase where it deploys, and then final stage is the end user stage where the testers will uh, optimize the application and then constantly monitor it. So in this sense, the three main things here used in the SDLC is, one is platforms, which is like OS, which is the fundamental resource and services for applications like for example, Mac OS, Linux, and Windows, and then also cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, and GCP, or on-premises servers, which provide the infrastructure needed to host and scale these applications. And one more thing is infrastructure. Uh, One is configuration management tools to automate the configuration and management of servers and infrastructure. For example, tools like Ansible, Chef, and Terraform, and virtualization and containerization tools to manage and deploy virtual machines or containers. Example, Docker, VMware, and Kubernetes, and CI/CD tools to automate the building and testing and deployment of the code. For example, Jenkins and Circle CI. And the last thing is the software. Uh, Integrated development environments to facilitate the development, like writing a code. Example, Visual Studios, that which is popular one that everyone use, and then Eclipse, and a version control system in order to facilitate the collaboration among developers, and then inside the team, which is a Git or Subversion, and testing tools to test the software. For example, for automation, it's Selenium, and then JUnit and PyTest, and database management systems to store and manage the data, for example, like MySQL, Postgre, and MongoDB, and also project management tools like Jira in order to manage the projects. So coming into the topic was on-premises infrastructure, which is an approach to computing where the hardware and software are owned and operated by the organization itself rather than by a third-party provider. Well, it is often described as a private deployment. And one advantage of this kind of having this infrastructure is the organizations have the full control over the infrastructure and then customize it according to their needs. And also the disadvantage is that they have to bear the initial cost of investment in order to install the servers or maintain the hardware. And they have to hire enough staff to maintain the infrastructure. Well, examples of some companies is mainly Interact follow this kind of follow the on-premises infrastructure as they deal with the very private information of the public, and also some of the government agencies. One more reason is most of their applications are legacy-based applications, so it is difficult for them to convert into cloud. And some of the key concepts of on-premises infrastructure are hardware, which includes servers, storage devices, networking equipment like routers and switches, and other physical components, and software, which includes operating system, application, databases, and other software programs that run on the top of hardware, and also networking, which includes LAN and WAN within the organization premises, just to ensure that all the devices can communicate with each other and with the external world, and also the data storage, which includes the holding data which can range from hard drives to storage area network systems. And also the security measures, which is very much important for every application, which includes like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and access control systems, and other security protocols in order to protect from like cyber attacks and data breach. And also one of the important is the power and cooling systems. As you know, like whenever a device gets like overused or else like using to its full potential, it will get overheat and then stops working. So organizations has to continuously monitor their hardware when they are following the on-premises infrastructure. Coming to the cloud infrastructure, it is a type of computing where the hardware and the software are hosted by a third-party provider and the organization can access through internet. One of the main advantages is it allows the organization to scale up and down as they needed, and they only pay for what they use. For example, whenever there is an instant increase in the load of their applications, the cloud will automatically, using the load balance and auto scaling, it will auto scale their applications, which means like it will create one more server where the half of the amount of the traffic can access the application through that server. So the disadvantage is organizations completely rely on the cloud provider, which can lead to less control and accessibility of the data. Some of the popular cloud providers are Amazon Web Service, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, and VMware, etc. There are three types in cloud computing, which is infrastructure as service, platform as service, and software as service. So coming to the infrastructure of service, infrastructure as a service, it provides virtual machines, storage, networking, and load balancers and firewall services. Well, the usual users manage and control data, applications, softwares, and tasks like installation, configuration, and maintenance. IaaS is suitable for organizations that require scalable and flexible infrastructure, but wants to keep control over data, software, and applications. Examples are like Scotiabank and other banking organizations usually use this infrastructure as service, and also a lot of financial tech companies too. As you see in this picture, so these are the all the services that are required to operate an application, and then the last four are the services which are provided by the cloud provider, and then the other things are in the control of the organization itself. And then the platform as a service, it offers platforms that includes not only infrastructure but also like databases, development tools, and runtime environments. Users focus on just developing, deploying, and then managing their applications, this is ideal for like organizations focused on like developing and deployment of applications mostly. For example, Thomson Reuters and they actively use the platform as service and web and mobile application development and data analytics and IoT solutions. And the last one is the software as a service. SaaS provides like access to software applications over the internet on a subscription basis. They are hosted and maintained by the cloud provider itself, and users access them through their web browsers. Well, these are suitable for businesses looking like ready to use software. Example is the one that we use daily, our Google Workspace and then Microsoft 365 Office. So there are different deployment models in the cloud. Users can deploy their applications in like different models, such as like public cloud, where they can deploy the AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, etc. And then a private cloud or internal cloud, which is like a computing model that offers a secure and dedicated cloud environment for a single business or organization. For example, if an organization is dealing with any sort of like sensitive information, they can offer it. For example, some of the AWS regions in the USA are privately dedicated for the US government applications. I guess there are around like 3 regions that are privately dedicated to the government, and also a hybrid cloud, mixing both cloud and on-premises infrastructure. Well, 82% of the current companies are following this strategy. Examples are fintech companies and banking organizations, as we discussed in the last slide. Mainly, they follow the platform as service model. and multi-cloud. 90% of the companies use multi-cloud strategies to distribute computing resources for like different services that provide to minimize the risk of downtime and data loss. Well, the advantages include like cost effective, and then it prevent the downtime and lower latency, avoid like vendor lock-in. So what exactly it is some services are offered for less price by one provider, and then some services are offered for less price by another provider. So companies will get can choose which provider they can go with for what service, so that they can reduce the cost of their application. And also like sometimes uh, uh, if a provider increase the prices suddenly, and then it's becoming for the organization, if it is becoming more expensive, then they can just simply use the another provider. And the disadvantages for this include like it is very hard to manage this kind of deployment model, and then it requires a lot of talent. So the people who they hire should have very good knowledge on both the clouds, and then they also have to see like whether the application has like required dependencies when they are deploying them in the multiple clouds. So these are the some of the services offered by the cloud providers. And the first one is the Amazon Web Services, and then Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud and Oracle Cloud. So AWS offers more than like 200 fully featured services in 26 regions and 84 availability zones all over the world. So regions in the sense like it's a place where they have their physical data centers. For example, in Canada, they have Canada Central, and then we have one region and one availability zone. But if we take the example of US, they have like multiple regions and then multiple availability zones. For example, they have one region in Ohio, but they have like multiple availability zones. So which means like they have one data center, but uh, they have two data centers in the Ohio where they have like where they provide the services, and the companies can choose which data center they want, which location they want to deploy their application. It's just like different availability zones and regions are pricing in different. There will be a difference in their price and then the availability. And Azure offers more than 100 plus services across 60 regions across the world. And Google Cloud offers 60 plus services across 29 regions and 88 availability zones across the world. So when we see the comparison among like different cloud providers, uh, AWS is the foremost, which they started their services during 2006. In fact, they introduced in 2002 two of the services, which is Elastic Cloud Compute and then S3 databases. And then they officially launched into the market in 2006, and Microsoft Azure in 2010, and Google in 2011. When it comes to the community, these have like large user base of companies like Airbnb, Netflix, BMW, Samsung, etc. And these have like customers like Apple, HP who are using, and then right now a lot of people are even migrating from AWS to Azure. And Google has like clients include like HSBC, PayPal, Domino's, etc. And when it comes to the pricing strategy, AWS follows pay per minute billing model, which is like for every minute you use the service of the AWS, we have to pay some of the we have to pay some amount. And for Microsoft Azure, also it's the same pay per minute model. For Google, it's pay per second billing model, which will save some money for the organizations. And the strengths are like for AWS, it's extensive, mature, and wide range of offerings and services. Since it's the first to launch, and Microsoft Azure is very ideal for the startups with a broad feature set and integration with like Microsoft tools, because they do give like pretty good offers for the companies who are already using the Microsoft Office. And the Google is most cost efficient as they follow the pay per second billing model. And these are designed for the cloud native businesses, which are like they're operating completely out of cloud. So since its launch, AWS is ruling the cloud market with majority of market share compared to the other providers. why people organizations are using AWS is like obviously they have like first mover advantage, which means they offered their services first of all, and then it's kind of revolution at that time, and then they constantly kept on getting the since it's the first company, they constantly kept on getting the feedback from the users, and then they were able to innovate their products according to the user requirements, and also they have pretty good pricing strategies. Since they came into the market, I think they revised their prices like 50 times, which like they reduced their prices. And also they have like very good documentation, and also like there is a lot of experts that are available in the market who are pretty good with the AWS platforms, and also constant innovation. As I said, like when you get a lot of feedback from the clients, uh, they constantly innovate their products in order to accommodate a large client basis. And also they have the widest partner network, which like they work with a lot of big companies, and then they also provide the services like cloud consultation for like companies who doesn't have much knowledge on the clouds. And also one more important feature is like free tie service availability, which is the only AWS is offering in all the clouds. This is like if anyone who is very new to the cloud and then wants to try the AWS, people can actually deploy a server, which is a free tie server that is free for the first 750 hours of their use, and then they can try to deploy the small applications and then see how it is working in order to just to get experience with the cloud. When we see here is the survey conducted by Flexera with 750 companies who are using cloud, and then there most of the companies are running their significant workloads on AWS, and then the next is the Azure. So when we compare the competition between the top two clouds, which is among the top clouds, here is the data from comparison data between 2017 and 2018. So if you see again, the AWS is leading in both the years. But one thing which we have to notice is when we see the growth of the Azure from 2017 to 18, it has a significant growth of 15%, whereas AWS has a growth of just 9%. The reason for this is Azure started providing good offers for the organization who are already with them using the Microsoft Office. So coming to the comparison between cloud infrastructure and the on-prem infrastructure, when you see the cost considerations, in cloud, organization has to spend their operation expenses, as it is a pay-as-you-go models. Like how much you use the services, you just have to pay for them. But on the on-prem, it's a capital expenditure for software and hardware and for the maintenance. And when compared to scalability and flexibility, cloud allows easy scaling based on the demand and it offers agility, which is like as I discussed in the previous slides, when there is a lot of traffic in their application, cloud will auto scale the application and then release the traffic, which reduce the latency for the end users. For on-prem, scaling is kind of complex, but involve over provisioning or underutilization. It means like, for example, we have around 100 servers. Out of them, we are using only 50. And the remaining 50 servers, we just kept it as a, in case if there is a lot of load on the application, we kept it as a safe purpose. So the load balancer will send the traffic to those remaining 50 servers. So in this case, since it's only a temporary thing, the expenditure that we are putting on those extra servers will be high, leading it to either underutilization or over provisioning for the application. And for maintenance and updates, providers handle maintenance, security patches, and updates automatically. But for the on-premises, it requires manual updates and maintenance of the hardware by the organization's team. And then for the security, cloud, it's a shared security where providers manage security for infrastructure and users manage security for applications. For on-prem, users have greater control over security measures. Uh, Coming to the performance and latency, performance can be affected by latency, but providers will optimize data distribution, which means like uh, uh, if if a person sitting in the other country is trying to access the application from another country, so the if the organization has a uh, sorry, user base all across the world, they can literally deploy their databases in all the regions since the cloud is available in different regions across the world. But when it depends on the on-prem, it is also possible, but it requires a lot of internal network and hardware support and data control and compliance. Uh, Compliance is for some industries where for like fintech and health sector and some of the private so those industries will has to go through follow a lot of compliance, and for which cloud offers like less control over data, but providers ensure the compliance certificates are maintained. But for on-prem offers like more control over data, but have to put internal efforts to ensure the compliance. And disaster recovery and business continuation. Cloud provides automatic disaster recovery solutions like deploying the same set of data in the cloud databases of another region, so that if something happened to that particular region, they can still retrieve the data from the other region. And for on-prem, they need some manual planning and disaster recovery strategies. And initial setup and time to value. Setup is quicker because a lot of things are available like a lot of resources are pre-configured. And for on-prem, its setup is more time consuming as the team has to install all the dependencies and all the requirements in all the resources. For example, if you take any of the server on-prem, it just comes with like how much capacity and then the how much hardware of the server. But the whatever the dependencies that are required by the application, team has to manually install all the dependencies in those servers. But if you take the example in the cloud, where you can get a pre-configured servers like CentOS, Red Hat, and Debian servers, Ubuntu servers. In those, a lot of dependencies are already installed in a way like a lot of organization can use those for their applications. And coming to the manpower, companies following cloud infrastructure requires small teams like development team, testing team, deployment, and then database management, since a lot of maintenance is taken care by the cloud. But if you come to the on-prem servers, they require large and dedicated teams for each and individual, like a dedicated team for the hardware, dedicated team for the software, and for the admin teams, and for the maintenance of the servers. Yes. So currently, most of the companies are migrating their applications from on-premises infrastructure to the cloud, which involves like migrating the process of moving their data, application, and other IT resources from a physical on-site locations to cloud-based environment. So some of the companies are migrating from one cloud provider to another cloud provider, like which is also called as cloud migration. So steps in on-premises to cloud migration or assessment and planning, which is like first of all they have to assess how much cost it will take for them in order to migrate, and then after they migrate, and then they also have to consider whether their applications will support the cloud platforms. And then starting with the data migration, the initial step is like they can reciprocate the data into the cloud, and then application migration, and then testing and validating their applications whether they are working better in the cloud or not, and then optimizing how good are they running, and then uh, cut over and go live. Cutting over in the on premises and then instantly going live in the cloud, so that uh, the latency in their applications will be reduced. And after that, they have to constantly monitor and then optimize their applications according to the requirement. And some of the steps in like cloud to on-premises migration are the same. First, they have to assess whether their cloud applications are can able to support when they move from cloud to on-prem, and then infrastructure setup, like they have to get the required hardware and then servers and databases, and then they have to migrate their application, and then they have to transition and deployment. So very less instances are there for like organization moving from cloud to on-premises. One of the typical examples are casinos, since casinos have a lot of land, and then it's a constant revenue generating companies. Casinos initially, even though if they are at the cloud, they are willing to move to the on premises as they see the having their hardware and then the servers and the on premises is kind of like increasing their assets. So what are the benefits of migrating from on-premises to cloud? First is focus on strategic initiatives. Since a lot of maintenance is taken care by the cloud providers, the team has like a lot of time to increase their uh, innovativeness in their applications, and then also efficient infrastructure management. Whatever the infrastructure and resources they have, they can use it efficiently. There won't be any problem with over provisioning or else like less utilization of the resources, and better security and compliance. Since security is very important part for the application, cloud providers are investing a lot in upgrading their securities, which a normal organization cannot able to achieve in a short term. And also they have like wide range of workforce who can work on like different compliance of industries like healthcare sectors or else like fintech sectors, and also innovation and new features. Like cloud constantly innovate themselves and then release the new features. For example, like the recent features released in the past 2 3 years, or like machine learning ops and then artificial intelligence in it, and also the blockchain technologies. So organizations who are following cloud infrastructure can quickly get their hands on these kind of innovative technologies. And one is cost savings. Cost savings is not something like which organization can able to experience in the immediately after they move to the cloud. Since it's a very lengthy process, and then it's a long-term investment by the organization. So they will, once they finish the migration, they will slowly see the difference in their costs. And then seasonal and variable workload. Sometimes their application will get a lot of load, and then sometimes will get less load. So during in those cases, cloud will use the auto scaling and then reduce or increase the service, which obviously saves some money for them. And also competitive advantage than the other companies. Imagine two competitors are there, and then both of them want to go into the global market. So one company is following on-prem, and then one company is following cloud. So the company who is following cloud, they can instantly deploy their applications in the other cloud regions, so that the users from across the world can access those applications in really quick. The latency will be reduced and the user experience will be increased. And then legacy system modernization. Legacy applications are very old, and then it usually take a lot of time to make any updates. So when a company decided to move to the cloud, it gives them a chance to modernize their legacy applications, so that they were able to uh, match the application dependencies according to the cloud. And also disaster recovery and business continuity and global reach and reducing downtime. What are the challenges of migration? First is security and compliance. Of course, the security will be high, but when the organization follow the cloud infrastructure, but the organization has to make sure whether the cloud is providing the required security for their application or not, and then whether the cloud has the required compliance to provide to act to deploy their applications or not. And then data transfer costs. In the beginning, the data transfer cost for the is very high when they are migrating from on-prem to cloud. And then as I said, like legacy applications and application dependencies, companies has to check whether all the dependencies they were able to succeed in it in order to deploy their applications in the cloud. And also skill set and training. Since this is in latest technology, which came in like 5 to 10 years ago, so the workforce in the market is also very less. So companies has to find the right workforce, and then with right skill sets, and also they have to train them. Some of the insights are like, according to the reports from McKinsey, by 2024, enterprises are motivated to spend $8 out of their $10 expenditure for IT hosting towards the cloud, which for that it requires a lot of effort both from the enterprises and then the providers. And one of the factors, COVID-19 is also one of the factor uh, driving most of the companies. It allowed the companies to understand the importance of digitalizing their enterprises, because during COVID, when their employees cannot go to the office, companies who are already in the cloud can able to continue the business and their services as services. So, and then according to another forecast, by adopting effective cloud cost optimization techniques and leveraging cloud services for value-oriented business use cases, there is an estimation that Fortune 500 companies have the potential to realize significant financial benefits within a projected EBA TDA increase of over like $1 trillion by the year 2030, which can also grow as the cloud facilitates the adoption of like emerging technologies like blockchain and augmented reality and virtual reality. So in this picture, it shows the breakdown of those $1 trillion in which like legacy applications, like rejuvenate applications can save like $430 billion, which means like these are the legacy applications. It says like when they migrate from on-premises to cloud, they can save their IT cost optimization, and they can reduce risk reduction and core operation digitalization. And then the innovative applications, which are the new ones, they can save around $770 billion. So these are the innovation-driven growth and accelerated product development, and they require like hyper scalability too. And one of the important factors is the pioneer, which is an additional opportunity. So embracing the culture of like experimentation with the low cost of failure, and then gaining experience with the cloud technology, which is an enabler for like early adoption of future technologies such as like quantum computing, augmented reality, and blockchain, and 3D and 4D printing. And another important factor is like the cost that companies have to bear in migrating to the cloud. So there is an estimation amount of like $100 billion is expected to be wasted on migration in the next few years, which is like a major factor that is affecting the companies, and then making the companies to rethink to migrate. So here is some of the statistical data collected from 443 companies in 2021 on their own process of migration to the cloud. So in the first picture, it shows like out of 443, the companies aim to shift the majority of IT hosting spent to the cloud. So when you see they increased 65% of the companies increased the annual cloud budget, and 26% has no change, and 9% decreased their budget, and 55% of the companies increase their application moving to the cloud, and 42% of the companies didn't change, and 3% of the companies reduce it. And the cloud migration timeline, which is like the time required for them to migrate to the cloud, 40% of the companies has like there is an increase in the timeline for the 40% of the companies, and for 43% of the companies, they just followed exactly their plan, and then they reduced their they didn't exceed the timeline. And then for the 16% of the companies, they actually migrated to the cloud quickly. And then when it comes to the type of applications, organizations who are having vertical applications are mostly interested to shift to the cloud. So vertical applications are some kind of applications like which will help the organization to work internally. For example, our limbs is also a vertical application. It is helpful to for the uh, internal for the companies to work internally, and in the retail sector it is the inventory management, and for the banking sector it is the whenever a user went for a loan, they will calculate based on the credit history. So these are all the kind of vertical applications. When we see in the study, there is uh, rather than the horizontal applications with companies having vertical applications, they want to move into the cloud. And then there is a stat. Well, this is the amount of cloud talent that is present in the company. Well, in the 2021, they have 35% of their employees who has like skills on the cloud, and then 65% they have is the non-cloud. But there was an estimation by 2024, the numbers will rise to 48% and 52%. Some of the current market trends, as like cloud computing market continues to grow at record pace, providers are like constantly innovating their products, and some of the prominent trends are like edge computing, which involves processing data closer to its sources rather than relying on the centralized cloud servers, which is crucial for like real-time analysis. For example, is smart traffic management. In this case, recently we saw like in every intersection there are like cameras, and then if we violate any of the traffic rules, we'll instantly get notified, and then the ticket will be generated. So this can be achieved by the with the help of edge computing, instead of sending the response all the way to the central cloud. And they have they have the uh, regional settings where they can be able to uh, analyze the data. And then one more thing is serverless computing. It allows developers to focus only on like writing the code rather than worrying about the infrastructure, which is more cost effective and scalable. For example, e-commerce product recommendation engine. And we'll see a real-time example for this one. And another thing is integrating AI and machine learning. Cloud providers are adding like specialized tools for AI and machine learning development, which includes pre-trained models and auto machine learning. It is very much helpful for the healthcare predictive analysis and zero trust security models, which requires like strict identity verification if anyone trying to access resources, even if they are within the organization's network. And then green cloud computing, as the environment sustainability is becoming a key consideration. Cloud providers are investing in renewable energy efficient data centers to reduce their carbon footprint. And one more thing is DevSecOps and GitOps. Well, DevSecOps is the DevOps and security operations. So security is like being implemented in development process with practices of DevOps and GitOps, which is like by providing the access control to manage the infrastructure, which is like who can actually get control of what kind of data. And then virtual cloud desktops, which is also known as desktop as a service, is a customizable products with all the preset configurations, OS and software applications as cloud service. Basically, the cloud provider will provide the companies according to the requirements a laptop or a desktop with all the resources that were already installed. And this is e-commerce product recommendation engine. So imagine a use case, e-commerce websites wants to update their application in a way like they want to recommend their products to the users based on their preferences. So for implementation, for example, it starts with the user interaction. Whenever user visits e-commerce websites and logs in, the website captures their activities such as like browsing history, search queries, and items added in the carts. And then the next phase is event trigger. Each user interaction, like seeing a product or else like adding in the cart, trigger an event in the system. And from that, cloud providers, serverless platforms like kind of AWS Lambda and Azure Functions is configured to respond to these events. And from there, the serverless function processes the events in like real time. It leverages machine learning models and algorithms to understand the user behavior and preferences, like what kind of product the user might like. And then based on the analysis, it generates a product recommendation to the user. Well, the recommendations are sent back to the user interface where they are displayed in like real time onto their monitors. Well, for this, the e-commerce company doesn't need to worry about like provisioning their application or else managing or auto scaling servers, as the serverless platform like automatically handles the execution of function as the event occurs, and then the organization just has to pay as per the work. So the benefits of these is like cost efficiency, which is the companies only pay for the actual compute time used by the serverless function rather than maintaining a constant server presence. And also real-time personalization. It enables like instant processing and response, ensuring that users receive relevant product recommendations real time, and also reduce the development time, which allows the developers to concentrate on writing specific code rather than worrying about the infrastructure management. And it also a automatic fault tolerance. Serverless function manages the underlying infrastructure, ensuring high availability and fault tolerance without any manual intervention. It's just like whenever a lot of people are trying the same product, so it will automatically increase the availability of the server. And resource optimization is these these functions are only active when the event is triggered by the user, which helps the companies to maximum utilization of the resources. And also flexibility. This allows for like easy updates or changes in the recommendation without actually affecting the entire system. So as a lot of people might have experienced it, whenever we search for any kind of product online, and then if we open social media, we'll get recommendations of the same product. So usually companies follow this kind of strategy in order to achieve those. And cloud computing in health sciences and research. As we know, Moderna is one of the first companies who released the vaccine for the COVID. So for that, they built their mRNA R&D platform on a public cloud to create their projects called Software for Life. This has put the company in like well positioned during the COVID-19 in order to quickly design and their experiments and enhance their drug discovery pipelines. And it also runs it like Drug Design Studio, which is a web application on cloud and leverage cloud scalable compute and storage infrastructure in order to analyze and quickly design mRNA sequences for protein targets. And one of the Pfizer also began working with the AWS to create cloud-based solution that aims to accelerate and improve the development, manufacturing, and distribution process for the clinical trial testing. And with artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, Azure built a platform which can be used for monitoring the patient health insights and then analytics, which is useful for the hospitals in order to design a custom treatment for the patient. So where are the opportunities if the companies move to the cloud? So there are a lot of opportunities for organizations and individuals. First of all, the governments it will help the governments to create smart city solutions, and it also supports for like innovation and entrepreneurship. For suppose imagine a student has some idea and then he wants to implement this idea. If he go through the cloud, which is everything is ready, he just has to pay for the resources that he is using, but he doesn't have to spend much time in releasing his application. And also easier software and application access for everyone, and access to information anytime and anywhere, and collaborative work and learning, as we see all the developers and team in an organization can connect whatever the code that they write, they can push into the GitHub and then they can share the code. So I want to discuss few of the opportunities here in the in the oil and gas sector. Cloud is very much useful in optimizing the parameters, like as data-driven analytics suggests, like well settings to increase their output. So based on the data that they were receiving, they will come to an estimation like if they have to increase their production or not, and based on and also like condition-based maintenance and active equipment monitoring is also possible through the cloud in order to prevent like unexpected breakdowns. Well, the conclusion is like many companies across a range of industries have successfully implemented public cloud in order to achieve impressive results. Well, these companies follow like three best practices. First is like they executed a well-defined, value-oriented strategy across IT and business and installed a cloud-ready operating model. Second is like they developed first-hand experience with the cloud and adopt a much more technology-forward mindset than their competitors. And finally, they excel at developing a cloud literate workforce. Well, the decision for like companies either to go with the cloud infrastructure or the on-premises is completely depend on the requirements and the business aspiration of the organizations, whether they want to move into the global for their business or else like they want to concentrate only on particular region in a place. So based on the requirements of the company, they can opt. And organizations working with sensitive information and who can get like constantly funded. For example, the governments can opt for the on-premises infrastructure or hybrid models. And organizations like startups with no periodic funding and have a like worldwide market can opt for the cloud infrastructure as it is available across the world. So these are the references. And thank you very much.
Great, thanks very much, Pavan.